All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Lounge. We do apologize for the delay. We did have to schedule for 4:30. We're running a little late, but here we are nonetheless. Better late than never, as they say.
Running on West Indian time as usual.
There you go.
To know me is to love me, but you have to expect that you're gonna love me late because I'm not gonna be there on time.
Exactly. But we're here now, so again, we do apologize for being late. All right, so let's get right into it then.
All right, what do we have for today?
So today, one of the things we were going to talk about was Dylan Mulvaney. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name correctly. Does that sound right to you?
I don't know who Dylan Mulvaney is.
Okay,
so...
Dylan.
Oh, Dylan. Who is Dylan?
Okay, I'm not sure if you've been seeing it making the rounds on different types of social media, but he is that trans person who's been pretty viral lately. And okay, so it's a male to female, so we're just gonna call her she, I guess, going forward. So she has been criticized highly for some of her little shorts that she's done on TikTok because she's very how do you say this, controversial in the sense that she presents the idea of being a woman or a girl as something like a cliche, I guess you could say. Like for example, there's this one TikTok she did where she's like, yeah, so like my first day of being a girl, today I had to what did she say? I had to basically lie when somebody asked if I'm fine when really I wasn't. I had to go online shopping and yeah, like just like all these like these negative cliches that people associate with being female.
So basically, the person is saying that as a female, they're expected to lie about their feelings, and that's what women do. So that's the woman experience.
And you do shopping, and you're hormonal, and you just want to wear high heels. Like, did you not see that video of her prancing around in the park? How much she loves the forest, wearing like heels.
No, I haven't.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you definitely have to. You definitely have to see that.
I wish I had, because then I could definitely. I'm sure I have something to say about it. Only because not because the person is trans. It has nothing to do with that. What my beef, if we want to go there, would be is that this person is stereotyping the woman experience.
Oh, that's exactly it in a nutshell. She is doing exactly that, just absolute stereotyping. It's what I always criticized the trans movement for. If there was any criticism on my part, it was always the fact that I don't believe just because you slap on the garb of women or whatever like accessory, like with this just because you paint your nails and you put on a wig and you feminize yourself in that way, is that really what you think trans is about? It doesn't sound right to me, because not all women present themselves in such like feminine attire, right? Or conventionally feminine.
Definitely not. I mean,
so then what is it? Is that, are you just trying to play dress up? Are you just a cross dresser, or are you really trans? So for me, it's a sliding scale, right?
Right, which brings me kind of to that teacher in Oakville, Canada.
Oh, but wait, before we go on to that, let's finish with Dylan, because the other thing that was in the newest thing is apparently she just went in for her feminization surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think she had facial, and I believe it's also bottom surgery. So that's sort of she did a little short video on that, telling people that she's so blessed that she gets to have the opportunity to do surgery, and this is gonna blah blah blah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who are not as fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah. For sure.
So I guess good for her on that, but
yeah.
Other stuff. I mean, in order for me to really go in on that, like anything about this person, I definitely have to look them up. But no, I haven't seen them, and I haven't heard.
You know what? I'm sure you have.
And one question for you.
Yes.
they going by Dylan, or is there another name that they're choosing?
That's a good question. The thing is, she kind of.
I know Dylan is
unisex.
Unisex, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. Like, she irks me so much. Like, when I see anything, I don't pay much attention to her because I'm like, she seems like she's cosplaying, and the other thing that she seems like she's clout chasing. It looks like she's just essentially like an attention whore. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because if you really were serious about trans, you wouldn't be doing a disservice to the rest of, the female, people who legitimately are dealing with it, or I'm not saying she is or not, but like she seems to be making a mockery of the whole thing, and that's really where she loses me. And that's not something you want. It's not something when it's already a marginalized community, and you have these kind of people who bring the wrong kind of attention to it. Oh, but then she was invited to speak to some women's talk with another. I think I mentioned that to you, with another a male to female person, and they were invited to talk about women's issues, and we're like, what on earth is going on? How do two men who were men until yesterday, pretty much, all of a sudden can talk about women's issues? Get out of here!
How
but it's kind of like Caitlyn being the woman of the year.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. You've been a woman for 6 months and you're woman of the year.
Exactly. And that was there was this one response to her, this Dylan thing was a woman responded via TikTok, a reaction saying, "Oh, so glad to know that on your first day as being a woman, these are the things that you're experiencing." Exactly, that you're having these emotional, moments. Meanwhile, the rest of us were born a woman, So, so anyway, yeah. So you were gonna talk about.
Well, no, I want to address this now because I just feel like, okay. So here's where I stand on this, as if my opinion is so important. I support whoever wants to live their life however they want to live their life, right? That's fine. It's all well and good, right?
Absolutely.
If you want to transition male to female, you feel like you're in the wrong body, or female to male, and you want to live your life authentically, go for it, right? That's not a problem. But I think
most people kind of see it that way.
Right. But then for me, and this seems to be mostly a male to female thing. I don't see it happening as much in the female to male community, if you will. That they take away from almost women, right? As you said, like they have a couple days into being a woman, and they're being invited to speak about what it's like to be a woman.
It's like when you want to talk about appropriation, it's almost like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And a lot of people take issue with it because they're saying that men already have had the upper hand in society and the patriarchy and blah 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 whatever for so long that again now men are taking something that is women and taking even that away from them,
Yeah, suppressing, like, basically women are bottom rung. It's been like this to the point where at one point in history, women were considered property, right?
That's absolutely. I remember when I worked at the archives and I was looking at some of the old records, and literally people would list their farm animals along with their wives and their children and their slaves as property.
Yeah. So to show you how low below women were considered at one point, they were property. So they didn't even count. They didn't have emotions. They didn't have anything. They're property, right? And now we come where we think we've advanced so far. We've got all these rights. We're still fighting the fight. And now we've got. I hate to say this because it's going to sound like I'm.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't know if it's. I don't know what to say because I feel again that women are getting squashed underneath for the rights of the few, right? And we're expected to kind of, if you say anything against it, you're considered anti.
Yeah.
That's not how it is. Like, let's take women's sports, for instance. Not even women's sports. Let's take, like, high school sports. Because recently, there was actually the court of Connecticut. In Connecticut, this happened. There was male to female students who were participating in sports, and they were dominating in these female sports. And some of the girls, I guess through their parents, decided to actually take this to court, because if those men, if those trans girls were removed from those sports, some of those girls would easily have been able to overcome their opponent, right?
Yeah.
And where this begins to matter is when you start to talk about scholarships, or because in the States everything is about scholarships and top tier schools and whatnot, and they're missing out on scholarships and they're missing out on opportunities to some of these schools because they're going to these trans athletes. And quite honestly, I don't know what the solution is, because you should.
You know what I think the solution is? Honestly, the only solution, the same way they have what is it, the Olympics for disabled people? Yeah, exactly. They should have that for the trans, because I'm sorry, they do not fall into any category. Like, it doesn't matter how much hormone you take, it's still not going to change your muscle and bone density enough to make it on par with somebody who's born with those hormones. It won't.
Let's say, for instance, right, I have a relative, right, who is in the process of, or who is now starting to come out as transgender. I don't know where they're going to go, but they're in their mid to late 30s. Mid to late 20s, and is tall. They're 6 feet tall, and they're a little bit on the heavier side.
So now imagine competing on swimming with when this person changes and it becomes a female, then you're going to compete swimming with her?
Exactly. And I think as much as, we support you in your right to live as you want, but I think we also have to acknowledge that just because you want to transition to a female or you want to transition to a male, that does not actually make you a female or a male, right? It makes you a trans male or a trans female, right?
Right, exactly.
And it's all well and good, but you're taking away from somebody. And to say somebody, trans man should compete, if we're going to go, okay, so trans man, you would not be competing in male sports, because you wouldn't probably even qualify. You would maybe in very rare cases. So since they're born a woman, put them with women. But that doesn't work either, because of the hormones that they're taking. Then they dominate in those sports.
Well, I feel like I don't even want to take it as far as scholarships, to be honest, because I think you have to take it down to more of a fundamental level and really strip it down to the basics, saying these people are essentially convoluting and diluting and really decimating sports, because now you have no standards. You have nothing where how is it that on one level, like even a little bit of amphetamines in your system, if you want to do the Tour de France, for example, will affect or could disqualify you? A small little advantage like that, or the fact that there's some sports that don't allow certain types of shoes that might give you an advantage. How is it that you being born a male, and even if it was still like I said earlier, it would still give you, even if it's a minute advantage, it doesn't matter. It will still give you an advantage. It's the same reason why they're not going to put a 200-pound or a 160-pound boxer with a 250-pound heavyweight. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen because it's disadvantageous for both of them and for the sport, because it's not even a fair fight anymore. Why do you think they give razor blades to chickies when they put them in a dog fight? Because obviously they stand no chance. You know?
So here's a question for you.
Mind you, I don't advocate for animal fighting whatsoever. I'm just giving it as an example.
So if we were talking about, say, boxing as you're taking it, right?
Yeah.
So what would happen would you be for, whether it's for a mixed gender boxing match, as long as they were similar weight class?
No, I wouldn't be. No, I would not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. Even if you take bone density, the bone density alone, I'm sure that if you clock the female skull and you clock one right in the male one, the male's gonna hold up a little bit better than the female. I think it would be a dangerous. Could you imagine one male giving one good round to a woman's skull? Like, I'm sorry, like whether she changed to be male and she's on testosterone, I don't care. Like, it still does not equal that.
I'm not even talking about transgender or anything. I'm just talking about mixed gender.
Oh
So you have
no, because no, it would be. You know what it would be? It would end up to be some kind of I don't know. I would probably get fetishized in a way, sort of like putting two women together in mud wrestling.
The guys would be watching because they want to see this girl get her skull kicked in.
Well, the thing is, okay. Let me give you another example. Funny enough, like in all sports, it's pretty much male dominated for value as far as like people interested to watch the sport. That's why like male athletes get paid more. There's more viewership. There's more engagement. There's more everything, right? Like you could take soccer for example. Like it's a multi-billion-dollar industry for the men. The women aren't getting.
And then because they want to keep men interested, they just parade the women.
But wait. So.
Sign holders.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Okay. So they'll use whatever. But my point being is there's one sport that's actually the reverse. And that's tennis.
Volleyball.
No, tennis.
Really? You don't think women's volleyball?
Actually, maybe volleyball too. Maybe volleyball. Actually, you know what? I don't know. You know what? I don't know enough about volleyball. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I would put it into the same category. And the reason is this, and what my initial point would have been anyway, is that with tennis, what happens when males go, they're so powerful in their swings that they're back and forth and boom, 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 and they're done. And it's so high intensity that people aren't getting really a show. With the women, you can see that they got powerful swings too, but there's more of a back and forth. There's more of a relay, and there's more. For some people, they like the grunting more and whatever else. But
I was gonna say maybe it's the.
Yeah, well, whatever. The point is, it's more engaging for the viewer on average, and people are far more interested. And when you go to, for example, Tennis Canada, if you every day alternate, so one year they'll do the men, the other year they'll do the women, and then like they'll go back and forth, right? And the women's always have a better turnout. People don't care so much about watching the men play tennis. Well, but same thing. People don't so much care about women playing basketball, but they'll turn off for the men, right? Or hockey, or these other types of sports. So I mean, yeah.
Or martial. Actually, you know what? Check your stats maybe on women's MMA. There might be
maybe MMA. Actually, that would be a good one. Actually, that'd be something. Yeah. Or the other one is roller derby.
On that note, I'm gonna have to get you to hold on a few seconds. I'll be back in a second.
Okay. So So speaking on this topic, you know what? I was listening to Joe Rogan talk about this sports, and I know that he's very, very, very passionate about the point about how trans people should not be allowed to compete, and I 100% agree on that point. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything, but by logic alone, if you break it down to the most basic of the idea of what it is, and even scientifically, you can understand that like a body has a biological component. The body is it's biological. The kinetic component to it, it is biological, and the hormones that you get from birth, and the way your body develops, it will affect the final outcome. And you can try and mitigate some of it through puberty blockers, or you can conversely, when you pass that, you can take hormone replacement, or adjust whatever hormones you want to take. It still does not equal what would happen naturally to the body. So I'm not a sports a fan per se. I don't watch sports. It's not my thing. I appreciate it for what it is, but I'm not a diehard fan like some people. But if I were to be, I would be pretty upset. I would be upset if I had a daughter who had to compete against a trans woman. I would be upset if I myself had to compete. I wouldn't feel like it'd be fair. So I could not change my mind. And the only thing that could change my mind on this would be is if there would be an actual scientific test that could be done, that could measure bone density, uh, muscle mass, just every component of what you utilize when you're playing sports with the human body, how you metabolize certain things, everything. Then I could maybe get on board with it. But the thing is, I think that the nuances even then would be so great. It would be almost impossible to measure, or it would take years and decades for them to figure out a system and a way, or some kind of device that could actually really replicate the situation, in what's happening with the body, and be able to do a comparative analysis really and truly accurately. So until these things are in place and can be proven one way or another, which I think it'd be easier to prove that they're not equal than it is to prove that they are equal, that I think it's really premature for these sporting organizations to allow it. I think it's regrettably, it's a step back, and it's doing more harm, and it's you know, I think for society, sports are an important part of it, just like the arts are, and culture, and everything else. And for them to take something like sports and really dilute it in such a way, it just it it's saddening, and I think it would be especially sad if you are a huge sports fan. So I can't get on board with it. I think that the only accommodation I could see would be have a trans team, or maybe have every person on who they're competing against, sign something saying, hey, to consent to it, not some, but to consent to it, saying, okay, yeah, I'm fine with competing against this person. I consider them to be the same, same as me as far as sporting advantage is concerned, But even then, how do we prevent coercion and those kind of things? It'd be hard. So I think the issues were relatively new to this. Just these surgeries and these hormone replacements are relatively new in a historical sense. So I don't think we have enough data yet to conclusively say one way or another, and to make these kind of decisions. So it's very premature.
Where are we at?
Just talking still. I'm still about the same topic. I was just saying I think we're premature, historically speaking, on these matters, especially medical wise, to be able to make these kind of decisions. That can adversely affect something like sports. We don't have the data.
Right.
Historically, we just don't.
You know what? It is in its infancy, and yes, these topics are going to come up, and there are kinks that need to be worked out for sure, right?
But it's easier. I was saying it's easier to prove that there's a difference than it is to prove that there isn't a difference, And there is no measuring device that could really do it accurately, right?
Well, what I think ends up happening is I think that people just want to be so inclusive and so accepting, right, at the detriment of logic and sense, right? Like, and people don't want to be labeled as any type of phobic, right? And again, to their own detriment, at the cost of sense and logic, because logically speaking, okay, I have children, I have boys, I have girls. They literally see, and I think what ends up happening too is we get so caught up in gender versus sex, and we use it interchangeably when it actually really isn't interchangeable.
I 100% agree. I think gender and sex are completely two different things. And I would further break it down to I think I'd further break it down into something that is gender identity is something completely separate and removed from both of them.
Yeah, because the thing is when you say I'm a female, we're talking about the sex here, right? Female is sex, male is sex, right?
Yeah.
But then what happens is they change it to female gender and male gender, and when you think about gender and gender conforming and I don't conform to this, it's now it becomes, well, since I'm a female, I'm expected to be in the kitchen and baking, and since I'm a male, I'm expected to be, playing sports and being
but you see, that's the thing. Is why I think this is absurd is those kind of gender norms or gender expectations are so far in the past that people don't expect that anymore, especially in Western cultures.
But this is where it comes into the whole I don't identify
So it's a matter of they're projecting then. They're projecting.
Right, and I think that's this is part of what the problem is, and this is where the whole gender and I don't identify as this, because quite honestly, let's break it down. What is a woman? What is a man? We're not talking about the sex, right? We're not talking about what your genitals are. What is a woman, or what is a man? Define those things with you cannot define it with like a specific definition, because I think culturally, any one of those boxes, we're not going to talk about all the different like binary and all that kind of stuff. We're just talking about identifying those two main ones for the intent of for the purpose of this conversation. What is a man? What makes a person a man? What makes a person a woman? What is the thing that would say, okay, definitively, across all cultures, across all religions, across everything, what is a woman? What is a man? Go.
And you're talking about like actual genitals aside.
Genitals aside, not talking about genitals at all. Not talking about physiology. We're just talking about what makes a woman.
Okay, but it's hard to say though without bringing physiology into it, because there's a lot of things that kind of go hand in hand. Like for example, I arguably in what's universal in most cultures, or mostly universal, is that a man is the provider, right? Or a good man is considered to be a provider.
What happens if you're a single parent?
Okay, what I'm saying is.
So then the woman is the provider. What else?
I'm not saying a woman can't be. A woman can also be a provider.
You're saying it's predominantly. So
what I'm saying is that if a man is not providing, that will be a strike through his manhood. Like even for himself, he will feel like he's inadequate because he'll be like, I cannot provide for my family. Another one would be like they're a protector, right?
Especially these days, some dudes are quite happy to sit home and let their.
Well, this is it, and this is why it's a thin line, why society is now sliding. That there are no norms and there are no expectations, and this is why sometimes I do believe that in societies, these rigid rules work, and religion works, and there's certain things that work. And hold on, let me finish, because I'm not saying that they're perfect. They're not perfect. It's idealistically they work. I mean, and because what it is kind of like if you put rules across the board for everybody, then you keep everybody in check, even though the people who aren't going to be happy with it, even though people who aren't going to be. You know what I mean? It's kind of like saying, well, we're going to make drugs illegal, not because, some people could handle their drugs and should be allowed to do it. It's a free world and whatever. They should do what they want with their body. However, there are people who cannot manage it, who cannot deal with it. So it's almost easier for societies to survive long term is if they make more rigid rules and apply across the board. I'm talking theoretically, you know what I mean? I'm not saying in practice it works, because it's like I'm gonna tell you, it's kind of like Marxism and communism and socialism and all these different political ideologies, even democracy. In theory, they all make perfect sense. They all like, yeah, that's a good idea. But then when you implement them in the real world, obviously all the cracks are showing, right? And you add the human element and things go astray.
Right. So then we become now. So let's take the provider thing. So, and as I said, single woman, she's the sole provider because her husband died or whatever.
Yeah.
Or not her partner died. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now, do we say now that generally, because males are considered to be the provider, does that now make her in the man role? And this is where it kind of comes down to the craziness of what's happening in society right now, because you're trying to say, okay, well, you know what, I don't particularly fit into a box. I don't fit into this box. I don't fit into that box. So you know what?
But nobody is going to fit into a box, right? Like not everybody.
Right, but then through that you say, okay, well, since I don't fit into this box, which is a woman, and since I don't fit into this box, which is typically a man, then I guess I'm neither. So I don't identify with those.
Okay, you know what? I think you know what? When it comes to what you identify as, it's
right. When back in the day, it used to be fine to be a tomboy. Some of them progress into something else and say, okay, you know what? Really and truly, I think this is my calling, and I do want to transition and whatever. But some of them just like grow out of it and find a little bit more of a feminine side as they get older naturally.
Well, that's what I was saying to you the other day, is that you can be a male and have effeminate qualities to you, or you can be a woman and have female. It can be a spectrum of things, but ultimately, when you wanna, like, so what you identify as, you know what it is? What really it seems like to me a lot of times, it's a form of narcissism. Like that you're putting so much credence into what you think you are and what you identify as and what you think and how the world perceives you. You know what? Get over it. Get over it. Honestly, no one cares. Identify as what you want. Like it's for you. And the fact is that these people are so making this such a center of their lives and their existence. That is the problem in itself. Because if you have so much time to be concerning yourself with other than trying to be a decent human being and doing the right thing, as to whether you identify with long hair or not, like you may need to go and do some soul searching.
Yeah, but the thing is society is open now, and if you say any of what you said, you're considered phobic.
I'm not phobic. I'm just saying that people are it's almost we're concerning ourselves with the most pettiest of things, where if that energy could be put into something like.
Yeah, but then you see what happens there is that really and truly we have we're part of a human experience, but really we live in bubbles. We live in tiny little bubbles that maybe consist of a couple other people on the outside of it. And as much as we would like to change things, we can't change the big thing.
But you know what?
What's going on in Ukraine? We can't change that.
No, but if we just adapted and live and let live.
What do? We say to ourselves, you know what I can control? I can control this. I can control how people perceive me.
Okay, can I say something or ask a question? And just I'm going to throw it out there. It's a rhetorical question, right? But imagine if I were to say to you or ask you, that or you know, just say that in general, people don't care what you identify as. Let's say if I told you that I don't care what you identify as, I genuinely don't care. Would it become an important thing for you? Because but what I'm trying to say is that if the outside world is not mirroring it back to you, or if they don't actually give a flying hoot as to what you are or what you're wearing or what you identify as, then it's kind of like a tree in the forest. Do you know what I mean?
Does it make a sound?
Well, really, when you think about it, the only way this argument works is if you have it bouncing back from somebody else. But if you come out, let's say for example, you come out to me and you say, "Well, hey, I'm homosexual." I'm like, "Okay, good for you. Why are you telling me? What's to me? Go live your life. Are you harming anybody? No. Okay." Versus you say to me, "Hey, I'm hooked on cocaine." I'd be like, "Okay, well, is this something you want to maybe address? That's something you need help with? You know, I might be, you know, I'm worried about you then, right?" But the point is, it's like I don't really think that the government or anybody, it's nobody's business what you do in your bedroom. Why do you feel the need to make it other people's business? The same thing. I don't care what's in your underwear. I don't care what kind of junk you have down there. I don't care. So why is it that now? That's what I'm saying. There's a form of narcissism to this whole argument.
What if your junk becomes an object of worldwide media, such as that teacher in Oakville with the size Z prosthetic breast, who is now transgender?
Right. So again, it's narcissism, because what it is attention craving behavior. Because if you really want to wear those prosthetic breasts, again, do it in your bedroom. Do whatever you want to do. The fact that you're wearing it outside means that you actually want to do an outward projection of your image for other people to notice you. Then we're coming back to the same argument. So again, I believe a lot of these issues, and I'm not going to say all of it. I'm just saying the crux of it is a lot of these issues that revolve around the whole topic. It comes down to a form of people being so self-absorbed, and then now trying to bring people into their little orbit.
So do you think that teacher should be able to be around children teaching looking like that?
Absolutely not. 100% disagree. And the reason is this: when you have certain professions, okay, You have fiduciary responsibilities, or you have other legal responsibilities, or you have whatever it is. The point is there are some professions that require you to have a dress code. Like for example, if you're a nurse, they're not gonna be wanting you to wear certain pieces of jewelry that's gonna put you on risk. Same thing if you're gonna be a machine operator, they don't want you wearing jewelry that's gonna get caught into things that are safety. If you're in the military, it's a very uniform type of thing. They want the platoon to look alike. You're presenting an image, so they don't want you wearing certain types of jewelry. They don't want you wearing sporting pink hair, like because you're not in line with their mandate. The same thing if you work in an office environment, they don't want you coming in with the armful of bangles that go to jingle jangle and just disrupt the whole office when you have, maybe certain types of clientele coming in. Then you need to present an image. And if image doesn't matter in society at all, then that's a whole different matter. Then this argument is moot. But as far as I'm concerned, those prosthetic, now if anybody doesn't know, you can go click on our thumbnail. We have an image of this teacher wearing these massive prosthetic breastplates, I guess, and these are very well known in the fetish community. So it's akin almost to, like, for me, in my opinion, it's kind of like, well, if we're not in an uproar about this teacher being around their kids wearing these prosthetic boobs, then why are we not okay with Balenciaga and the teddy bears and the bondage gear?
Wow.
Right? Like I'm sorry, neither is okay.
Yeah, basically, like, where do you draw the line at fetish? And if fetish...
You know where you draw the line? It's very simple when it comes to kids. You draw the line when there's children as the audience or children involvement. You draw the line, period. Anybody underage, if this person did it in a university campus, I would still be I still would support it and I still would be against it. However, I wouldn't be as outraged about it, or I wouldn't be as firm in my thinking that this is absolutely wrong, and the fact that the school board will uphold this is beyond me. So you're gonna uphold the feelings of one person in the sea of everybody else. So basically, it's akin.
Devil's advocate here, though.
Yeah.
So this person is transitioning. This is how they identify. This is how they feel that they are comfortable. This is the body they feel like they should have been born with.
Then they need to go to a psychologist. It's body dysmorphia then. And this is the thing. Why are we normalizing mental illness to accommodate? Like what I'm saying is, instead of us treating mental illness as we treat it, I'm not saying mental illness is a negative thing, but why are we afraid to call it out and say, hey, if that's what your issue is, let's get you some help?
No. Instead, what happened is this person went skydiving. This teacher went skydiving with a porn star and ended up breaking their leg. And
yeah, and I saw a clip of them now going around in the school with crutches, and then the kids were told not to take video, and somebody did take video. Then I start thinking, what do you expect? I'm sorry, this is attention-seeking behavior, and if we don't call it out, this is the problem with society. If we don't call it out, where do we draw the line? I'm not calling things out. Why are we calling out Kanye West? Why are we calling out Balenciaga? Why are we calling out everybody else? Oh, but wait. A person who's around your children?
Why? Because those things are in America, and it seems like in Canada, where we apologize for everything in Canada.
Oh, speaking of, I was just looking at the Canadian passport application form, and guess what? For gender, they have an X now as an option. Imagine now, you go to a country, and the passport is now, you can say, is a universal thing, because you'll need the passport if you travel around the world, right? And not universal, but global, right? So you're gonna take a global document now, and now I'll be damned if you land yourself in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, and go with your ex-passport and see what happens.
Yeah, and you know what? Like the passport, I don't have so much of an issue with. The driver's license, I don't have so much of an issue with.
Oh, for me, it's the birth certificate.
The birth certificate.
Oh, that for me grinds my gears.
You know what, my problem? Because a birth certificate is historical fact.
Exactly.
Right?
Precisely.
Like something happened. This is what you were born as.
Exactly.
If you transition, I guess maybe the reason they're changing it
condition? Why doesn't it have just a condition? And I'm sorry, I can get on board with the driver's license, but I can't get on board with the.
You know why I don't think that the driver's license need a condition? Because for the most part, if you get pulled over by somebody, like if you're presenting at something, you kind of a lot of times look like what you're presenting at, right? So it doesn't really matter. You're getting a
okay. So the reason, hold on. The reason that the driver's license doesn't bug me is because that's more of a local thing, right? The passport bothers me because you're involving other countries now trying to like go around your little, your bureaucratic whatever that you're doing with your gender no gender thing.
You're implying that there's something wrong with what's happening to them. So if
you're it's not implying there's something wrong. What I'm saying is adding confusion, and you're making the.
Okay, so if you're
I'm sorry for a passport.
You're entering a country, and you don't even have to be transitioning. You can just put an X because you know what, you are Eva, and you don't want people to know like you because you don't identify as male or female. You just want to put an X. If you walk into the country, what difference does it make to the person reviewing your passport that if you're female or male?
Oh, it might make a big difference because in some countries you're not allowed to even rent a hotel room unless you're married with someone. So it will make a big difference.
Hold on, what if you're in a lesbian relationship?
Then in some countries you will not be able to even rent a hotel room. Don't forget, in some countries, being a lesbian is a capital like crime.
I know, and being gay is also like.
So then what's happening to these people then when they want to go? So you could be potentially like signing their death warrant.
If I was in danger for my life, if I was gay, and I was in danger for my life to go to another country, more than likely I probably wouldn't be going there if it meant that I could be thrown in jail or I could be stoned to death or hanged or killed or whatever these penalties are. Why would I want to go there? Why would I want to put myself?
But this is it. You don't know. Some people
in North America, we are.
What if you have a death in the family and you need to go?
Then you have to accept that you can't go without incurring whatever the penalty is.
Like let's stick with the example of Saudi Arabia.
In North America, the world revolves around you, but in other places, the world does not revolve around you.
Exactly.
Right? And I think North American people have to get that in their heads. And you know what? Especially.
Well, and that's my point. That's actually my point too. It's like, why are we doing the passport then? Because now you're involving confusion with other jurisdictions, other countries that have different and a passport is basically like an international document in the sense that you use it for international travel mostly, unless you're only doing domestic, but then it doesn't matter, right? But if you want to go other places, like it's a document that not all countries will subscribe to. So there should be a set format, right, for it.
Well, my assumption is that if countries that are adopting an X as a gender on a passport, I'm assuming that they've done the homework and have some sort of agreement with other countries to say, okay, well, this is something that's even doable. Because if it's not doable and these countries are putting their citizens through unnecessary hardship, because that's what it comes down to, right? You are rubber stamping a policy that has not been recognized worldwide, and people are still going to be traveling, as you say. They're going to be traveling here, traveling there, and then running into issues. You know what? As the country that's allowing it without double checking and cross checking and fact checking and all that kind of stuff, the onus then becomes on you as the country. You're responsible for your citizens. You're responsible for your citizens' safety abroad. You need to also then make sure that your documents are not going to get your people in trouble. Because I would be damned if I went to another country with an X on my thing because my country told me that it's okay to have an X on my passport, and I get held or something happens to me at the border, or I can't even fly and enter into the border of that other country because stabbed by somebody else on the receiving end.
Do you know what I'd like to get the opinion of on these kind of issues? Is actual people who are born with both,
Okay.
and their parents make a decision for them to raise them as, let's say they're born with both genitalia, and their parents usually make a decision on their behalf to raise them as male or female, depending on whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
And they had no choice in the matter, and also they were like one of those medical anomalies where they were born like that. How do they feel about people who just change genders, and how their struggles and their what they're going through? I really wonder how they would feel.
Do you mean like how do they feel watching people who don't necessarily have to do that in their mind?
No, everything surrounding it. Like,
really?
I'd have 1,000 questions. I'd have 1,000 questions to say, like, how do they feel about it? You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, but I'm not in a position to wonder. But I mean, I would have to think. I have a kid, right? And something like that happens. If there's a medical, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what I would do. I don't know what I would do.
And that's what
knowing me, I would be so worried that I would make the wrong decision. That's how I would be so scared of making a decision because I'd be worried that I make the wrong decision.
Well, but that's sort of my point is now when we talk about these scenarios, those are the legitimate scenarios. You know what I mean? And I feel like the same thing how we talk about like the women's issues kind of being downgraded a bit, and I feel like these people who don't have a choice in the matter, who are born like this, and who have real struggles, trying to identify as something or trying to fit in to what is
you know what though,
the norm.
I think that somebody being born with a medical anomaly, right? Their struggle is not any less real than somebody who is struggling with the trauma of trying to decide, or trying to figure out.
Oh, I think the struggle is more real when you're born with both. You have a real struggle. Think about it. Not only do you have the physical like contradiction, but then now you also have the mental like try to kind of make sense of it all.
The person who is mentally trans, because if you're talking about being like physically,
I'm sorry, you're trying to mentally trans. You're reconciling that, right? But if you are actually born with both, and you have to now make a decision or live or how you like I feel like it's far more real. It's far more real because you have way more issues than somebody who's just dealing from a mental perspective,
Well, I think I get what you're saying because it's almost like you don't know what, I guess, I don't know, because like I'm having a hard time with your premise that that anyone's struggle is more struggle than the next one, because I feel like the mental situation, you and I both know, having mental struggles, you can't, it's immeasurable. You can't measure somebody else's struggle against somebody else, right? You don't know, like, for instance, let's say the person who was born both genders, maybe it was an easy decision to choose this gender or that gender. Maybe the person who is struggling with their gender identity, deciding whether to transition, and they're not both gender, like they're not born with male and female parts. Maybe they're struggling, about whether to do it, whether to come out, whether they should just commit suicide because suicide rates are so high in that.
And they've already shown that these surgeries do not lower the suicide feelings at all. It doesn't alleviate it. It does not alleviate it at all. And they've talked to a lot of I've watched quite a few interviews with detransitioners, and a lot of them are saying that they were misdiagnosed or they were pushed into something, and the other thing is they weren't given enough time to really think it over. There's a lot of regret, and there's a lot of these gender issues are coming from situations of abuse too. So again, like those struggles are real. The abuse issues are real for sure. Yeah.
Miss Eva, I am coming down to that time where I'm going to have to log off, unfortunately, even though I am really enjoying our super lively discussion.
All right. Well, then we'll see you tomorrow around. What do you think? 4:30.
Yep, for sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. Toodaloo. We'll see you later. We'll miss you.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye. Yeah. So not to try to sound insensitive because I'm not, and I do know that a lot of like trans people do struggle, and it is a mental struggle for sure. I just feel like it's not fully understood yet, and I think we're not always making the right decisions or advising people the right way. I think people need to take a step back, really evaluate things, and get a second opinion. Do research because when I do see people who make these big decisions, and when I say I see, I mean online when I read about them or when I watch videos on it, and I see the pain and the regret. Um, it's something to be taken very seriously and not rushed or letting people push them into it. That's not right. So if you are struggling with that kind of issue, then absolutely get help. Absolutely, really, really think about it and see, and if it's the right decision for you, um, then I mean you'll know, right? So anyway, so I guess we're gonna log off, and thank you for dropping in to watch today's little sort of doing sort of a podcast on video until we sort out our technicalities. Um, so if you guys can stick with us, and we'll see you again tomorrow. And thank you again for stopping by Real Talk Lounge. So wish you a wonderful evening, and we'll see you guys. Ciao.